The future of Xbox, it's curated. And I don't know what that means. Well, I do know what that means, but the future of Xbox is starting to become more focused and more clear, and it's realistically everything we thought it would be. Now, the past few days since the ROG Ally Xbox edition and all that has gone out to the world, Microsoft has been on a PR media tour, showing up everywhere in Variety and Mashable, and I think even Good Morning America. They are trying to get Xbox out into the world. I mean, that's legitimately what they're doing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That is what Xbox should be doing. They should be doing media tours all the time. But now that they have this fancy handheld, this quasi like weird collaboration, we're getting more information as people are actually able to officially ask Xbox, like, hey, what is going on? And so the latest bit of information here comes from this interview with Mashable, which I will link to down below, where Sarah Bond sits down and does an interview with Mashable talking about the Ally X and everything else it does. And she goes into a little bit of a conversation, which I will show you the literal transcript, at least from the Google Gemini's transcripting the video here. And it's very telling. And it is not even very telling. It's extremely telling. It says, and this is coming from Sarah Bond, it says, well, I can tell you you're right that the next gen console is going to be a very premium, a very high-end curated experience. You're starting to see some of that thinking with what we have in this handheld. But I don't want to give it away yet, and blah, blah, blah. She goes on. And so, when you compare that to the next generation, Xbox is going to eat monsters from breakfast from the previous generation, to it's a very curated experience. Like something's not landing here. And we kind of expected it to be more expensive. Like just this week, I think Microsoft started telling partners, like, if you need an Xbox dev kit, it's more expensive now. And we've seen Game Pass pricing go up. We know these ROG devices are up to $1,000. And with everything getting more expensive, Microsoft is just really leaning their shoulder into that. And they are literally telling us that the next generation Xbox console is going to be very expensive. Also, you can likely infer that it is going to truly be a hybrid PC mashup, because let's talk about the word curated, which is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this conversation. So curated, what does that mean? It means bringing a whole bunch of different things together into one experience. Well, what are you going to have? You're going to have probably the Steam store, which you already know, the GOG games. You're going to have your Xbox games. You're going to have everything curated into this experience, which for some people is going to be fantastic. And for Xbox diehards like myself, it's a little alarming. It's a little alarming. Now, I'm not worried, at least yet, about my digital library not traveling with me, because if there's one thing that Microsoft is known, it's known for their backwards compatibility. So we can kind of take that and push that to the side. But the reality here is that I don't think it's going to be unreasonable to expect that the next generation Xbox is going to be $1,000. That is where I would set your expectations for right now. Now, the big unknown about this is, like, can you just BYOX, like build your own Xbox? Like, is that going to be a thing that people are going to be allowed to do? That is a totally different conversation. But curated premium. They are not talking, notice they didn't say powerful, notice they didn't say value, notice they didn't say everything else. Now, value conversations typically come later in the life cycle. Like you don't lead saying, we're going to go to the next generation and build a value box. Like that's typically not how these things work. But this is a really big deal. Like this is Microsoft telling us literally everything we expected is the next gen. Now, people have been hung up on, like, Microsoft's not building hardware. It's important to point out that Microsoft has done multiple media shenanigans the past couple days. Like, we are doing hardware. They're saying they are doing hardware. So that is no longer a concern. But I believe it's rightful to be a little invested, if you will, about what does that hardware actually mean these days? Because the ROG Ally, which they are telling us is the future. Like, this is the future. That device sitting right there between these two individuals is the model. It's the canary. It is the first experience of this new model, and which is what I've kind of expected for a while now. This is the canary in the coal mine. Microsoft shoves it out the door. Somebody has to go first, and so our ROG teamed up with Microsoft. I still believe there was some sort of back deal handshaking, maybe not literally paying them to do that, but there's something going on there. You got to be first out. And so We already know that the Windows experience is a little rough. Go look at all the updates you have to run. You have to deal with BIOS and settings and everything else. And it's the problem with the ROG Ally X. It's too much Windows. It's like it's too much Windows. It's not enough Xbox experience. It's too much Windows experience dealing with updates and everything else, rather than push button get game. Now, Microsoft, we believe, has at least a year to get us to that point. And so it's just software, but software can be updated remotely, and I would expect the experience to get refined. However, my friends, anybody who's been around the road of Windows for a while, including a Windows Phone and everything else, our mantra has always been, well, they'll eventually get it sorted with the updates. I mean, look at Windows 11. It took forever to get to a place where you had a decent right mouse click menu out of the box. Like, geez, come on. And so I expect that early adopters of these devices, much like we are seeing now with the Ally X, it's going to be like, all right, well, the next update will solve these problems, but there's still this whole laundry list, and they'll eventually get the updates figured out and sorted out. And like, that cannot happen with a high-end premium curated, whatever the hell that's going to be, experience. So I think we are seeing Microsoft coming out and telling us what they're going to do. This is an Xbox. We all know that advertising campaign. Sarah Bond sits on an interview and says it's a high-end, curated, premium experience. We're going to have multiple game stores. It's going to be expensive, and it's more than likely going to be just like the ROG Ally X device. It's going to have that Windows hybrid experience. That is the next gen Xbox. Now, what are the actual like frames per second and those things? Like that is such a non-conversation starter. The hardware is going to be great, right? AMD builds good stuff. It's enough. We're far enough into the PC computing and gaming area that getting the 4K 60 frames per second should be done. I mean, hell, look at Battlefield 6 on the Series S. It is hats off to DICE, because it plays phenomenally on that box. And it's not the most powerful box, but you think next gen, it will be possible if 4K 60 frames per second, if I can get that out there, has to be the benchmark. That aside is not really the point here. The point here, my friends, is that we have seen the future. It's already here. It's these devices. And so that's what it's going to be. The question becomes now, and this is like a really genuine question, when are we going to start seeing other devices, right? So ROG is already out the door. You'd have to think Lenovo, who loves to build this kind of stuff, and other vendors are going to be following at some point. Are they only going to be handheld devices? Razer is another one who typically goes down this route. Are they going to be building handhelds, or is Microsoft going to let them build like a proper little cube box thing, right? Little cubey box that looks like an Xbox and that kind of feels like an Xbox, but isn't quite an Xbox because it's still that weird hybrid experience. All that being said, I'm dumb enough and I will be buying this, whatever Microsoft sells on day one, because that's what I do. And I will be buying the next one. Whether or not it's the last Xbox I ever buy, I don't know. And I don't mean that like I'm ditching the Xbox brand. I mean, what is this hybrid thing? Like if I can go build a new Xbox, then that's probably where I'll end up being, because I like to tinker. I like to do that kind of stuff. So we'll see. This is just, it's just a few words, but they have dramatic impact that we now know that the next gen Xbox, whatever the heck it's going to be very high end, and it's going to be premium. And we better get used to opening up our wallets, because Microsoft is not going to be taking a loss on that hardware. I think that ship has sailed, and here we are. So if you want to go sailing with me in the Xbox seas, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because then the BS on this channel is me.